When I first started at Anderson & Co., I thought I had finally found the place where hard work meant something. I was the type who showed up early, stayed late, and made sure everything ran smoothly. If someone forgot a report, I had already printed a copy. If a client called in angry, I calmed them down before they even had time to raise their voice. Honestly, if there had been a medal for corporate firefighting, I'd have been a decorated war hero. Naturally, after 2 years of that kind of dedication, I expected a promotion. Not asking for the moon, just recognition and maybe a paycheck that didn't make me feel like Raymond. Noodles would be my retirement plan. But my boss, Mr. Gregory Anderson, had a different criteria in mind. He called me into his office one Friday, leaned back in his leather chair like a wannabe CEO from a low-budget movie, and gave me a look that made my skin crawl. "You know," he said, his voice dripping with fake charm, "you've been doing a fantastic job here. You really deserve more." I perked up. Finally. Maybe the assistant manager position, or at least a raise. Then he leaned forward. Well, I'd be happy to make that happen. But of course, loyalty is important. Loyalty and discretion. I blinked at him. Discretion. His smile widened like a snake unhinging its jaw. "You scratch my back, I scratch yours. If you catch my drift." Oh, I caught it. Stomped on it, and wanted to throw it out the nearest window. "Are you seriously suggesting I need to sleep with you for a promotion?" I asked, my voice flat. He chuckled, like it was the most natural thing in the world. "Don't be so harsh. Think of it as building trust." I stared at him, then burst out laughing. Not polite laughter, the kind that shakes your shoulders and makes your stomach hurt. He sat there, confused, while I wiped a tear from my eye. "Gregory," I finally said, standing up, "I wouldn't touch you. If promotions came with a lifetime supply of vacations and a villa in Italy." He flushed red, his ego bruised, and snapped, "Well then, don't expect to go far here." And he was right. I didn't go far. For the next 2 years, every opportunity magically passed me by. Promotions went to people who could barely spell spreadsheet. Raises skipped right over me like I was invisible. Gregory thought he had won. He thought he'd punished me into submission. That I'd regret my choice every time I checked my bank account. That life has a sense of humor. And fate? Fate was about to roll the dice in my favor. Because 2 years later, my husband bought a lottery ticket, and our lives and Gregory's were never the same again. It was a Thursday night. Nothing special. My husband Daniel and I had just finished eating leftover spaghetti and were settling in for a Netflix rerun marathon when he pulled a crumpled lottery ticket out of his jacket pocket. "I forgot I even bought this," he said, chuckling. "Probably another donation to the state." I rolled my eyes. "You and your tickets. You realize the odds are basically 1 in forever, right? Hey, somebody's gotta win." He shrugged, grabbing his phone to check the numbers. I didn't even pay attention at first. I was too busy loading dishes into the sink. But then I heard him go silent. Not just quiet. The kind of silence that makes the air shift. Honey?" His voice cracked. "Can you come here?" I wiped my hands on a towel and wandered over. He held the ticket like it was radioactive. His eyes wide as dinner plates. "What?" I asked. He shoved the phone in my face. "Read those numbers. Then look at the ticket." I glanced at the screen. Then the ticket. Back to the screen. Back to the ticket. And that's when it hit me. Every single number. Matched. For a second, my brain didn't compute it. Like maybe I'd forgotten how numbers worked. "No way," I whispered. "Way," Daniel said, his voice trembling. Then it hit both of us like a truck. We screamed. We jumped. We danced around the living room like lunatics. knocking over a lamp in the process. The dog barked like we'd lost our minds, which, technically, we had. After the initial hysteria, we sat on the couch, staring at the ticket like it was a golden ticket to Willy Wonka's factory. "How much is it?" I asked, barely breathing. Daniel checked again. 350 million. I nearly fainted. "Are you kidding me?" We screamed again. Sleep was impossible that night. Every 5 minutes, one of us would wake the other up just to say, "We're rich." Like we were afraid the universe might take it back. The next few weeks were a blur of lawyers, financial advisors, and conversations that didn't feel real. We went from coupon clipping and arguing over electric bills to discussing trusts, investments, and tax shelters. But through all the chaos, one thought kept creeping back into my head. Gregory. My smug, manipulative boss who had held my career hostage for years. Gregory, who thought denying me promotions would break me. Gregory, who had once leaned back in his fancy leather chair and said, "Don't expect to go far here." Well, guess what, Gregory? I had just gone farther than you could imagine. And the best part, I didn't want to just quit. Oh no, that would have been too easy. I wanted to buy the whole damn company. The idea hit me in the middle of a meeting at work. Gregory was droning on about synergy and tightening the budget, while I sat there doodling in my notebook, pretending to care. I looked around at my co-workers, tired, underpaid, and avoiding eye contact, so they wouldn't be the next target of his fake charm or real temper. And then it clicked. I didn't just want to leave this place behind. I wanted to own it. That night, over dinner, I pitched the idea to Daniel. "Buy the company?" He repeated, blinking at me like I'd suggested buying a zoo. Exactly. Think about it. Gregory's been running it into the ground for years. Half the staff hates him. He's desperate to keep up appearances with the board. And thanks to the lottery, we can make an offer he can't refuse. Daniel's lips curved into a grin. "So instead of quitting, you want to buy the place out from under him?" "Exactly," I said, stabbing my fork into a piece of chicken for emphasis. "And then I'll make him my assistant. He'll be the one bringing me coffee." Daniel burst out laughing. "Petty, I like it." Within a week, our lawyer had arranged a quiet meeting with the board. I sat across from them in a tailored suit I'd bought just for the occasion, feeling like some kind of undercover agent. The chairman cleared his throat. "So, Mrs. Carter, you're interested in acquiring Anderson & Co.?" "Correct," I said smoothly, though my heart was hammering. "My husband and I have the capital, and I have the experience inside the company to know what's working and what isn't." The board exchanged glances. They weren't stupid. They knew Gregory had been a problem. And when we laid the financial offer on the table, their eyebrows nearly flew off their faces. By the end of the week, the deal was done. Daniel and I officially owned Anderson & Co. The day we walked back into the building as the new owners is a memory I'll treasure forever. Gregory was waiting in the lobby, oblivious, wearing his usual smug grin. "Morning," he said, holding his coffee like a trophy. "You're late. Don't expect to." I cut him off with the sweetest smile I could muster. "Actually, Gregory, I own the place now." He laughed. Actually laughed. "Good one." Then Daniel stepped up beside me, handing him the signed documents. Not a joke. The color drained from Gregory's face. He looked from the papers to me and back again, like his brain couldn't compute. His lips moved, but no sound came out. I leaned in just slightly and whispered, "Guess I finally got that promotion." The look on his face? Worth every unpaid raise, every humiliating meeting, every sleazy comment. And that was just the beginning. The first staff meeting under new management was a moment I had dreamed of for years. Gregory sat at the long mahogany table, fidgeting in his seat, his usual confidence replaced by a twitch in his left eye. My co-workers, bless them, looked like kids on Christmas morning. They didn't know exactly what was happening yet, but they could smell change in the air. I took the head seat, his old seat, and let the silence stretch, just long enough to make Gregory sweat. As you all know, I began, smiling at the sea of curious faces. Ownership of Anderson & Co. has officially changed hands. My husband and I are now the proud owners. A ripple of gasps and whispers swept the room. I swear one guy actually fist-pumped under the table. Gregory forced a smile, his face pink. "I'm sure this is wonderful news for everyone." "Oh, it is," I said sweetly, "because today we're making some leadership adjustments." I flipped open a folder and slid a piece of paper toward him. "Effective immediately, Gregory Anderson is stepping down as CEO." He opened his mouth to protest, but I held up a hand. "Don't worry, Gregory. We've found you a new role." The paper outlined his new position: executive assistant. To me, the room went so quiet, you could have heard a paperclip hit the floor. Then, like the opening of floodgates, muffled chuckles spread around the table. People coughed into their hands to hide their grins. Gregory's face turned a shade of red. I'd only seen once before when he spilled hot coffee on his lap during a board presentation. "This is absurd," he sputtered. "Not at all," I replied calmly. "We value loyalty here. And since you've been with the company for so long, it felt only right to keep you on." I leaned forward. "Besides, who knows my preferences better than you?" The staff nearly lost it. From that day on, Gregory's new duties included fetching my coffee, 2 sugars, no cream, scheduling my meetings, and delivering copies to the very people he used to boss around. The first time he showed up at my desk with a stack of papers, I couldn't resist. "Gregory," I said, tapping the pile, "these are out of order. Would you mind redoing them?" "Thanks, champ." The way his jaw clenched was pure poetry. The best part? The staff loved it. They watched in glee as Mr. I run this place became Mr. Do you want that in a staple or a binder clip? The more he sulked, the more energized everyone else became. Productivity soared. Morale skyrocketed. It was like the whole office had been liberated. And me? I was thriving. Every "yes, ma'am" from Gregory was a shot of sweet, sweet justice. One afternoon, as he carefully arranged my files, I leaned back in my chair, sipping the coffee he'd just delivered. "You know, Gregory," I said with a smile, "I guess I did get that promotion after all. Took a while, but worth it." His eye twitched. I savored it. And just like that, the hunter became the prey. If karma were a sport, I was playing in the championships. Watching Gregory shuffle around the office with a clipboard and a permanent scowl was better than Netflix. Better than vacation. Better than wine on a Friday night. It was justice served hot with extra sugar. I didn't just assign him work. Oh no, I crafted experiences. "Gregory," I'd say in the morning, "be a dear and grab me a latte from that cafe across town. The one with the terrible packing." He'd grit his teeth, grab his keys, and disappear for 45 minutes, only for me to take one sip and sigh dramatically. Not enough foam. Maybe try again tomorrow." The staff started catching on. They'd watch him hustle past their desks carrying binders, printers, or the occasional giant box of donuts, which, let's be honest, I had no intention of sharing. Every time they'd exchange knowing looks, like we were all in on the same inside joke. One day I had him organize the entire storage room. Decades of old files, mismatched office supplies, and about 6 fax machines that hadn't worked since Y2K. By the time he emerged, covered in dust and looking like he'd just survived a mine collapse, I smiled sweetly. Oh, Gregory. Turns out we're going digital. Toss it all. The laugh that erupted from my co-workers was enough to carry me through the rest of the week. But my piece de resistance came during the quarterly presentation. For years, Gregory had strutted onto that stage like a king, clicking through slides full of buzzwords no one cared about. This time, I had a different plan. Gregory, I said that morning, you'll be running the presentation today. His face lit up for the first time in weeks. Finally, a chance to prove himself. He wore his best suit, polished his shoes, and strutted into the conference room with a glimmer of his old swagger. Except the slides weren't about synergy or growth potential. Nope. I had replaced them with graphs about our coffee consumption, a bar chart comparing stapler theft by department, and my personal favorite, a pie chart labeled, "Who's the most annoying boss in company history?" Spoiler, it was 100% Gregory. He clicked through, horrified, while the staff roared with laughter. By the time he reached the final slide, a giant picture of him carrying my coffee with the caption, "Employee of the Month," he looked like he might actually combust. I leaned back in my chair and applauded. Fantastic job, Gregory. Really engaging. The room exploded with cheers. That day, something shifted. Gregory realized this wasn't just about humiliation. It was about balance. For years, he'd abused his power, made people feel small and acted untouchable. Now, he was learning exactly how it felt to be powerless. And for the rest of us, it was the most fun we'd ever had at work. Revenge is sweet, but do you know what's sweeter? Moving on with a smile while the person who wronged you is stuck living in the shadow of their own downfall. And trust me, I had the sweetest last laugh of them all. By the time 6 months had passed, Gregory was a shell of the man he used to be. The once arrogant boss who strutted around barking. Orders now shuffled through the halls, with a notebook and a pen, waiting for my next instruction. My co-workers adored their new freedom. They thrived under a leader who actually listened to them. And every success we had as a company only reminded Gregory how badly he'd failed. But the real cherry on top came when we held the annual company gala. Traditionally, it was Gregory's moment to shine. An evening of speeches, champagne, and self-congratulation. This year, things were different. I took the stage in a shimmering gown, the spotlight warm on my face. "Thank you all for coming," I began, smiling at the sea of employees, board members, and clients. This year has been full of change, positive change, and it wouldn't have been possible without each and every one of you. Applause filled the room. Out of the corner of my eye, I spotted Gregory standing near the back, clutching a tray of champagne flutes. Yes, I'd assigned him to catering duty. And finally, I continued, I want to recognize someone who's been instrumental in teaching us all a very important lesson. I gestured toward him. "Gregory Anderson, could you please come forward?" The crowd murmured. Gregory froze like a deer in headlights. Slowly, awkwardly, he made his way to the stage, his face burning red. I handed him a framed certificate. The words in bold read, "Outstanding Achievement in Coffee Delivery." The room erupted. People laughed, clapped, whistled. Gregory stood there, stiff as a board, holding his certificate of humiliation while I shook his hand with a smile that could have lit up Times Square. "Let's all give him a round of applause," I said cheerfully, "for proving that karma always finds a way." The ovation that followed wasn't just for him. It was for me, for us, for everyone who had ever endured his arrogance. After that night, Gregory lasted another 2 weeks before he quit. I can't say where he went. Rumor had it he tried starting a consulting firm. That fizzled out, faster than cheap fireworks. I didn't care enough to find out. As for me, life was good. The company thrived, my employees respected me, and Daniel and I finally got to live without worrying about bills. We traveled, invested, and laughed a lot, especially when we remembered those years I spent under Gregory's thumb. In the end, he thought denying me a promotion would break me. Instead, it fueled me. I didn't just outlast him, I outgrew him. And when the dust settled, I had something he'd never have. Happiness, respect, and the last laugh.